Now, Johnny's Jaunt USA. You may remember that last week we left him in Boston in a very nice mood indeed. Well, today he's in Buffalo with one or two worries.
I don't mind telling you, we were all frightened of the thing. It was extraordinary. We had sauntered into the car hire place with all the nonchalance in the world. Good morning.
Hiya.
We would like to hire a motor car, please.
Yeah.
Have you got one?
Oh, sure. We got plenty of automobiles. What kind you want?
Well, what sorts have you got?
Well, we have all sorts.
Funny, you know, I thought I knew all sorts of cars, and now I can't think of one. Well, what do you think? A sedan for four? Yes, a nice sedan for four, please.
You guys British?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, our experience is that you British go for the small automobile. You don't like the big stuff, huh?
Well, no, we're not mad keen. We've seen some of the big stuff. It's fantastic, terrifying stuff. The average American motor car is something way outside our experience. Not only our physical driving experience, but also our mental experience. I don't want to get all highfalutin about a simple everyday thing like a motor car, but it isn't until you've lived amongst American motor cars for a while that you realize the awful significance of the term status symbol. And when you come to think of it, a status symbol is a very simple thing. It's your tribal headdress, your bead necklace, your pot of war paint, your plot of land, your 6 cows and 15 wives. And I suppose in a way it's a good thing that you're able to combine all these basic tribal possessions and instincts in one glorious, awful article. The trouble is that we are forced by manufacturers to accept the symbols they create for the more outrageous extroverts. And extroverts are getting more and more outrageous. And yet, we quite like it, really. Well, you can change from an introvert into an extrovert in a couple of ticks. I remember not so long ago, in a little town just outside Boston, we saw a lady lavatory attendant close up her place of business for the lunch hour. It was a warm day, and she was sitting outside on the pavement on a wooden chair in her white coat. Her lavatory, by the way, was called a sanitary station, neatly printed on the wall. Quite often in America, such places are coyly called comfort stations. It's a bit of a shock when you first see it. Men's and women's comfort stations. Anyway, came 1 o'clock, the church clock clacked its dry clapper. The sanitary lady wearily peeled off her white coat, hung it inside the door, folded up her wooden slatted chair, put that inside, and gently closed the door. She was a sad, pale little thing. Nothing much had ever gone right for her, you felt. For her to finish up like this at her time of life, Lucy O'Grady, the sanitary lady. She's hardly making a go of the place, and she knows it. She looks nervously right and left, and steps back a timid inch or two to allow a couple of well-tailored gentlemen to waddle slowly by. And with depressed shoulders and bent knees, she hobbles across the road through a tremendous old Buick motor car. She opens the door and drops almost out of sight into the driving seat, her little head just showing above the steering wheel. And then it all happened in a couple of seconds. She starts the car. The two well-tailored gents step off the pavement to cross the road in front of her. She nearly got them. They leap back onto the pavement in terror, and away she goes. It's an astonishing performance. We all know that it happens, but to see it happen, case history number 1, timid lamb turning terrible tiger by just sitting in a motor car. And in America, everyone's got a motor car, even the sanitary lady. That's why we're all frightened of the great American motor car. And the man at the car hire place suspects this.
Yeah, now, let's see. You need a compact.
Ah, yes, now that would be nice. A compact. A compact is the American term for a small car. Even then, they're as big as the biggest things that we're used to.
Now, let's see. Say, Harry, do we have a compact? It went out this morning. Too bad. We don't have a compact. I guess you'll have to take what we got. Say, Harry, let's have that yellow one that came in last night. Okay. Now, who's doing the paying?
Oh, I'll see to that.
Tubby Foster starts scratching about in his briefcase.
Okay. Who's doing the driving, huh?
He dangles a key in the air. Jack Leverett and Frank Burslam are carting their cameras over to the yellow automobile.
Okay. Looks like you're doing the driving, bud. Take it easy.
I'll take it easy, all right. Huh. Crafty lot, my chums. They don't want to have anything to do with the yellow peril at all. Neither do I. And I like driving motor cars, but not this one. It's like a great sickly sponge cake, smarmed with chromium icing sugar, soft and creepy. It's a great big sentimental slob, and it snuggles around us all as we sit in it.
Okay, fellows, take it away.
All very well saying take it away. The steering wheel's on the wrong side for a start, and the gear lever's in it. Where's the gear lever? Where's the gear lever? There isn't one. It's automatic, and I haven't the remotest idea how you work the things except the starter. Now that works all right. And the slob starts purring. Now I suppose you put that little lever into D for drive, yeah? There. Nothing happens.
Say, fellas, will you get this thing out of here? We got some other guys coming in.
I press the accelerator, and the slob stops slobbering and purring and starts to wobble and sob as though it's been told some awful news.
But I think you got the handbrake on.
There isn't a handbrake.
Must be.
I know there must be, but there isn't. We look in all the secret places where car manufacturers sometimes hide handbrakes, but we can't find it anywhere. Where the dickens is it? You know, there's one thing about Americans. You are never in any doubt about what they mean.
Say, will you get the goddamn thing out of here?
I can't find the handbrake.
Handbrake? Handbrake? Huh, holy moly. We haven't had handbrakes since the covered wagons. By your left foot, your left foot.
Oh, I see. A tiny little ratchet pedal. Huh. So that's the handbrake, or rather, the hand-foot brake. Huh. Good.
Yeah, okay, now take it easy.
Don't worry.
Okay, take it easy. Now, do you know where you want to go?
Yes, to Niagara.
American or Canadian?
Canadian.
Do you know how to get there?
Well, no, not really.
Look, you go down here to the lights. You make a right, and then you make a left. You go on for 6 blocks. You come to some more lights. Then you make a left, then a right. You cross the river. You cross the border. You are in Canada. You make a right and keep straight on. Okay?
Okay. There's one thing about Americans. When they give you directions, they give you directions. Well, it's easier for them. Their cities are built like that, more or less chopped up into squares. Our towns and cities are different. We have to fiddle about for hours explaining the way. Look, you come to a pillar box in the wall. Then there's an old builder's yard with a lilac tree, and then there's a road saying private. Well, you sort of bend around here, and there's a bus stop. Well, it goes on for hours and hours. But here, in Buffalo, it's all straightforward. We had flown from Boston to Buffalo because Buffalo is the nearest city to the Niagara Falls. I suppose quite a lot of business goes on in Buffalo. It's a pretty busy place, but not the sort of place that you'd want to stay in for long. Most of it was built at the turn of the century, by the look of it, just blocks and blocks of 5- 6-story blocks. Right, now we make a right at the lights, and then a left. It seems to be working well. I must say that I've been most unfair to the big slob motor car that we've hired. It has an extraordinarily good character. I never thought that I would appreciate the studied overindulgence of the American motor car. But it's surprising how easily you fall for a little indulgence. There are no gears to worry about. The power steering will park the great thing for you easily. Well, the power steering and your little finger. You can creep about in traffic from jam to jam just by using your big toe. And when you want to get away, that same big toe will hurtle you well up to over 100 miles an hour. I rather enjoy sending this smooth slob about its business. We make another left and another right. We cross a great bridge over the Niagara River. We cross the border into Canada, make a right, and keep straight on, right alongside this great, wide, slowly swirling river. Now, we'd better just stop for a minute to see exactly where we are and just where this tremendous flow of water is coming from, where it's going, and why. Well, it makes life much easier if you get these things straight, and there's only one way to do it. Have a look at the map. Here we are, just outside Buffalo in Ontario, Canada. We're on a small shoulder of land between Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Now, Lake Erie and Lake Ontario are just 2 of the Great Lakes. There are many others. Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, and lots of smaller lakes. Now, all these lakes are clustered close together, a collection of tremendous sources, like great seas, hundreds of miles long and scores of miles wide. Water slithers into them from the mountains, comes rushing into them from rivers, spilling into the sources, filling them to the brim, and they quietly overflow. The highest saucer overflows into a lower saucer. and that saucer into a lower one still. And the last two gigantic saucers in this terrific water chain are Lake Erie, last but one, and Lake Ontario, the last. Now, the significant point in this brief little geographical recap is that Lake Ontario, the last lake, is several hundred feet below Lake Erie, 326 feet to be exact, and so something pretty terrific is bound to happen. Millions and millions of tons of water must crash and tumble down over 300 feet somewhere. And if there's anything in this world that we do dearly love to see, it's water crashing down. And the biggest water crash in the world is at Niagara. I'm sorry if that's been a bit of a bore, but we know now what's going on. And we can see what's going on as we drive alongside this monster reptile of water. Yes, it moves like an immense soft snake, making hardly any effort, but with such sinister purpose, every now and then rippling a muscle near the bank. Just imagine getting adrift in that lot. It has happened, of course, somewhere around this point, I imagine. Now, we are bowling along the Canadian bank of the Niagara River. It's very beautiful. Maple trees all aglow, fine farmhouses standing prosperous and proud in a well-farmed bit of country. The American bank over there is highly industrialized. Great chimneys coughing up black clouds of infection all over everyone. Mind you, the chimneys are quite a long way away, but you can just see them. And it was from the American side that in 1918 a great steel barge called a scow got away somehow, and in a couple of ticks it was swirling away out in the middle of the river. How it happened, I don't know. Like all accidents of this kind, nobody can believe that they're actually happening. Could be they were just mooring the barge. The tug cast her off before she was fast on the bank. A wet rope slithered through frozen, cramped figures, and...
Hey, now, wait a minute. Take it easy. Wait a minute. Take it easy. Everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right.
But everything is not going to be all right. There are men on the scow slinging ropes at the people running up and down the bank. The ropes won't reach. The scow swings away into the deep flowing water. The men aboard her can't believe that there is absolutely nothing between them and the terrible falls at Niagara. It's the sort of agonizing drama that the old film directors used to cut together so well, except they only used a birch bark canoe and a smallish waterfall at the other end. We can visualize the whole thing happening as we drive alongside the river. It's growing gradually wider and wider and faster and faster. Great animal rocks jut up and foam at the mouth. The river loses all restraint and starts to leap and boil. Look, a quarter of a mile away, there's a great cloud of mist hanging over the river, the perpetual cloud of spray made by the falls. In a few minutes, the scow and its crew will be smashed to splinters, when suddenly, with a terrible death rattle, she runs aground on a great scab of rock that lurks just beneath the surface. Saved. Yes, she's stuck there firmly. They managed to get a rope to her, the men were taken off, and there she is to this very day, the scow, jammed fast on the rocks, just above the falls, for close on 50 years. She still looks as good as new, except that her bottom's been ripped away. They look at her every now and again from a helicopter to see how she's doing. They hope that she'll go bit by bit and cause no trouble. But even if she goes in one piece, I don't think she'll cause much trouble. This terrible torrent will smash her like a matchbox. But what a sight it would be. We wish that she would go now. We want to see her buffeted, pounded, smashed, banged, walloped into matchsticks. Nasty, violent little lot, aren't we? But that's what Niagara does to you. I wouldn't have believed it. Niagara is more than a tourist attraction. It attracts people for deep and dangerous reasons. Now, be reasonable, and take it easy, and don't get excited. Well, just look at this great river, simply surging around a tremendous bend before it takes the plunge over the Horseshoe Falls. You can touch it if you want to. Yes, you can get that near. It somehow looks so gentle and soft, like pale, soothing green oil as it slithers over the edge and crashes down below. We watch it slithering over and over and over and over, and we watch and watch and watch. We can't stop watching. And as you watch, inside you, a sinister battle is going on. The quietest voice is saying to you, "It would be lovely, wouldn't it?" No, it wouldn't be lovely. Of course it would be lovely. Absolutely beautiful. No, it wouldn't be beautiful. Just jump gently into that lovely sliding stream and skid over the top into glorious oblivion. No, it would be horrible down below. Don't think about what happens down below. You wouldn't know. You'd just become one of the birds up there in the mists. I don't believe it. Up there in the ghostly mists, thousands of seabirds scream free and wonderful. Oh, the grace and beauty of a death like that. Will you shut up? I say, Tubby, do you get the feeling that you might like to jump into that?
Yeah, I tell myself I'd be a fool, though.
Yeah. I've never had that sort of feeling before. The urge to self-destruction. And it's taught me something. If ever I get a nasty depression after a bad attack of flu, I'll stay away from Niagara because I know. Well, I might. Well, there is a possibility. Why wait for the flu? Something will get you in the end. Go now. You be quiet. I've got you taped now. I know exactly what you're up to. No wonder people are attracted to Niagara. Well, it's one of nature's most dramatic demonstrations, and we can't bear it, really. It puts us to shame. Tiny, puny little people. So we string up tight ropes and wheel people in wheelbarrows across the roaring rapids just below the waterfall. There you are, Niagara. What do you think about that, eh? You can't frighten us, you know. We'll show you a thing or two. We'll accept your death challenge. We'll jump in, there you are, but in a barrel, and come out alive at the other end. How's that? There you are. You see, if you're going to have nature demonstrating like this, little old man is going to come along and do his nut as well. He loves the demonstrations, does little old man. And you know, it's a sobering thought, but the first person who ever went over the Niagara Falls in a barrel was a woman. As long ago as 1901, she was a school teacher, and it nearly taught her a lesson. She was lucky. She got away with it, got badly knocked about inside her barrel, but lived to tell the tale. As I say, she was lucky. Her barrel, as it went over the top, shot well out, so that when it splashed down below, it rolled clear of the falls. Others haven't been so fortunate. They have dropped vertically and landed behind the falls, and there they have churned and died. And people still try to demonstrate and show off over the falls. But now, if the authorities get wind of any barrel boy about to make a plunge, they step in and stop him. They should have stopped Captain Webb. Captain Webb was the first man to swim the English Channel. A man of courage and incredible endurance. In his striped bathing togs, it took him 21 3/4 hours to painfully push his way from Dover to Calais almost 100 years ago. Then one day, he fetched up at Niagara at the rapids. The rapids are below the falls. Shortly after the water has fallen its 176 feet, it swirls about a bit and goes belting off down a ravine, a narrow ravine like a funnel. The ravine is 350 feet deep. The water that boils through this ravine is nearly 200 feet deep, and it hurtles along at roughly 40 million gallons a minute. I'll say that again, 40 million gallons a minute. If you can imagine an inferno of fire, then try to imagine an inferno of water. It's a sort of nightmare wet hell. And the gallant captain put on his long striped bathing togs. He just smoothed his fine parted hair and adjusted his grand moustache. And he glanced up at the screaming gulls that shriek madness to the skies. He thought perhaps for a fleeting second of the greatness that he'd helped to bring to England, of the glory and honour that he'd bestowed on the manufacturers of matches who'd called their matches by his name, Captain Webb. Yes, for this was he, the Captain Webb. No one had yet swum the rapids, but no one had swum the English Channel till he. And the rapids were soon to be conquered by him. Who knows, he might get his picture on a box of cigars. He bowed to the right and to the left, and plunged to a certain and ridiculous death. The supreme stupidity of such an exhibition is perhaps some indication of the dreadful urge to self-destruction that Niagara imprints on a certain type of person. It's no good saying 40 million gallons of water a minute. 40 million gallons of water a minute doesn't mean a thing if you have inside you that quiet voice, that insistent quiet voice that says, "Go on, you can do that. Go on. Everybody's waiting to see you do it. Go on." At Niagara, you can see the barrels of all the people that have gone over the falls, those that died and those that crawled out alive. If you ever get a chance, have a look. It's a worthwhile experience. There is so much at Niagara that is worthwhile. Well, we only meant to stay here for an hour or two, a couple of shots of the waterfall and away. But we've been here all day, and we can't get away from the place. Well, you can do this other incredible thing at Niagara. You buy a ticket and slip into an elevator and drop down in a shaft drilled in the solid rock behind the waterfall. It says ladies' changing room left, gents' changing room right. Oh, yes, you have to change, part of the service. You hand over your shoes and your hat. They give you a pair of gum boots and a paper hat to put on. Yes, a crepe paper hat. The sort of tomfool thing you get out of a Christmas cracker. The four of us stand and wait in our paper hats and gum boots, like shy little boys at a party.
Well, what do you think we're going to play first? Blind Man's Buff?
Well, I don't know. I'm a postman's knockman myself. Here we are. An attendant brings 4 long rubber coats with cowls attached. That's what the paper hats are for, to keep the cowls clean. We dress up in the waterproof monk's gear and plod off down a concrete passageway. From the ladies' changing room, black shining rubber nuns come silently down the slippery cloisters. It's a weird sight. A quiet procession of black monks and nuns. There's a very little nun slowly pacing in front of me. She's tiny. Well, she's only 7. Oh yes, robes to fit everyone, all part of the service. We start to giggle. We can't help it. And laugh. Our profane laughter echoes in the dripping tunnels. We're not the only ones laughing. This strange excitement tickles everybody as we get to the end of the tunnel. You can't go any further. You daren't. Look at that. It's fantastic. We are standing right at the back of the falls. You can put your hand out and touch them. Spray lashes in from the booming cataract and trickles down your rubber robes. If you look just out of the side there, you can see the ravine where poor Captain Webb met his end. If only this tunnel had been built, and he could have come here first of all, he would never ever have tried. Because standing behind this thundering curtain of water, you get the full murderous message of the power of 40 million gallons a minute. We stay there for about 10 minutes, 400 million gallons worth, and we went back again next day. No, we hadn't had enough. Because there's still something else you can do. I tell you, the place won't leave you alone. They've built a skylon beside the falls. Awful? No, it's terrific. The skylon is a tower, a concrete tower like a tremendous knitting needle, 600 feet high, a slender knitting needle with a well-shaped knob on the top, and in that knob is Canada's only revolving restaurant. It takes just 1 hour to make 1 revolution, and so you slowly turn once between soup and cheese. It's an experience. Well, I never thought we'd spend the best part of 2 days here, did you?
No, and I hate to say it, but if we don't make up our minds and go, we could be here for a week.
Right then. Come on. And we sink easily into our big slob automobile and send it swishing westwards beside the shores of Lake Ontario and then the shores of Lake Erie towards Detroit. I suppose we were in Canada in all about 3 days. Well, nothing. And we drove 300 or 400 miles. Chicken feed. All I can say is this country has got the most wonderful feel about it. The latent power of the good earth comes tumbling right down to the roadside. There we are, look, another vast fruit stall set up by the roadside. It's enormous, a whole sort of fruit and vegetable market, all on its own in the middle of the great open plain. Tons and tons of apples, pears, cauliflowers, tomatoes, grapes. No, I had no idea that they grew grapes either. Rather strong-scented grapes. And pumpkins. Muscular mounds of bulging orange pumpkins. A roadside cornucopia for the wayfarer. And the wayfarers pull in and stock up with the rich fruits of the fall. We fill up the boot of the slob with 6 different varieties of apples, 4 different sorts of pear, 2 sorts of grape. And it's all so easy to eat. You don't worry about lunch and all that nonsense. The anxiety that we have about mealtimes floats away. You drive for mile after mile, surrounded by food. It's so simple. We live off the land, and the land is deep and rich and versatile. It can squeeze up a crop of top-grade tobacco for you as easily as anything. Look at it drying in those sheds all along the road. It will push up a towering crop of maize for you. You've only to say the word. Look, they're harvesting it on the other side of the road. And just beyond that, tomatoes. And what the dickens is that? Yes, it's a little oil well. All this fruit on top and oil underneath. Yes, it's hardly fair. Look, there's another one. Lots of the farms along here have got their own little oil wells. Can you beat it? I imagine it's pretty crude stuff, but it's oil. They just keep the pump going and the lorry takes it away for refining. It's picked up just like the milk. Naturally, they have milk as well. Fruit, vegetables, corn, grain, grapes, tobacco, milk, and oil. And the Great Lakes all around splashing with fish and wildfowl. No wonder everyone looks so cheerful and free and easy around here. That's what gives the country that wonderful feel. Life is good and full, and the future is bursting with promise. Anything is possible here. This is only the beginning. You feel that nothing has failed here. All along the whole long road from Niagara to Windsor, the warm autumn air smells of fruit and sweet success. This is another land of yes. No, you don't say no. Nobody is thwarted much here. Can I build a new barn for the cows? Yes. A new house for myself? Yes. Can I double my acreage of maize? Yes. Can I drill for a drop of oil? Yes. Can I sell a couple of tons of fruit by the roadside? Yes. They work with a one-sided decision maker here. Every time you spin it, it comes up yes. You know what, Tubby? I have the feeling that if I was a younger man...
I know. You wouldn't mind chancing your arm out here.
No, I wouldn't. You feel that whatever you chanced wouldn't be such a chance. I wouldn't mind settling here.
Well, give the decision maker a spin.
Right. Now, shall we settle here in Canada? Spin it on the camera case. No. No.
Oh, pity about that. I was looking forward to having a little oil well in the back garden.
So was I.
Still, we can always think about it.
That's quite right. You can always think about it.